All right, we're here with Scott, the second person voted out of Ascendance All-Star Season 7. Tell us how you got here, Scott.
Well, I think I got here because I put my foot down and I tried to make some things happen because the options weren't what I wanted. And I think it's reflective from the first time I played, where I ended up just having to play with the people that I had to play with, and I didn't want to do that again. And so I think that my past experience is really what got me this time, because the names that were out there seemingly were Duke and Thulsi, and I didn't want to vote either of those two off. And a plan was brought to me, and I thought, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. I thought that we could get the ball rolling. And ultimately, I think that I sort of laid down on the sword because I was really, in my mind, looking to protect Duke, because I thought Duke's name was the one out there, and I didn't think that we had enough votes to keep him. So this was a gamble to try to muster something up, and it ended up coming back on me. I had an inkling that it was going to be my name because no one was talking to me at all. And then once I saw that first vote for me, I was like, okay, shoot. But in my mind, I was like, I put myself way out there for these people because I really didn't want Thulsi to go. So the blind optimist inside of me was like, okay, this still won't be me. But inside, I like, as soon as I saw my name the first time, I knew that it was coming, which stinks. But alas, here we are.
Okay, I'm going to walk you back in time a little bit to we'll talk a little bit with you about you were on the fence if you wanted to come back. You originally turned down the role. We kind of moved on to some other season 5 people, but luckily there was a spot. What made you reconsider coming back?
For me, I originally didn't want to play because I started going back into work. So I just didn't know if I would have as much time as I would want to commit, because we're working from home. The first time I played, I had a lot more time to, find these powers and really invest a lot more time. Anytime anyone posted anything, I was on it. I had a lot more time to kind of go through the boards, look for things. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to do that. And Ascendant in general is not necessarily the format that I see myself being really strong, being as strong as different things, because I mean, this is a case in point. A smaller tribal council is something that I feel like I can maneuver much better. And so whenever the first tribal council was 17 people, I was like, well, this is wonderful. I hope we don't have to do this again. And then when it was the second time and it was only one team was going to go, I was like, okay, I can handle that. And then it opened up to two. And I was like, oh, we're just going to be big tribal councils every single time. And I knew that wouldn't be my strength. And I assumed in an all-star cast of Ascendants, I assumed it was going to be a big cast. So I guess I was just nervous that I was going to do poorly. I took a strength finder test once and it said I will never enter a competition. I don't think that there's a chance I could win. And I think that was sort of in my mindset. And I ultimately was like, I got to give it a go. Who knows if I'll even play any more of these and if I'll ever get asked to be on an all-star cast. So I guess my pride. And now here I am, 23rd place. Maybe I'm reconsidering my reconsideration.
Um, as a very kindred spirit to you, I understand and feel all of that, but I will move on. So, as you're sitting there on the Friday for cast reveal, was there anyone that you were super excited to see? Was there anyone you were hoping to see? Is there anyone I revealed that you were dreading and just groaned? What was your thought?
Well, I don't know a lot of the other seasons, or I guess didn't know a lot of the other seasons, so I didn't know a lot of the people. So I was super excited to see Duke. Obviously, he and I are friends. I was excited to play with Emily. I didn't know her as well, but I was excited to kind of get to know her. And as far as my season is concerned, I think that if I were to guess who was going to be on it, Jordan, Jack, Connor, those, and Luke would have been the other guests. So I was sort of surprised not to see Luke here. But I wouldn't say that I was excited or not excited about anyone specifically. I had a lot of thoughts about how I would be perceived, especially with someone specifically like Jordan. He was someone that I know we worked really well together, but I know that he knows that he voted me off and it was dramatic. So in my mind, even if I wanted to work with him, I know that he would keep that in the back of his mind. So that was complicated to kind of steer around these past relationships. So I was actually really excited to see Connor as well, because he was someone, in watching the videos, Confessionals back. I was excited to play with him, and I mean, we'll get into that, I'm sure, with the Curtis vote. His name automatically came up very quickly, and I was like, cool, this is not what I want. And then with Jack, he and I hadn't really talked much during our game. We actually got on our first call this season, and we went back to back, which was not cool. But as far as the rest of the cast, I sort of knew who Thulsi was just from other org people. Curtis looked super familiar to me. I don't know him super well. Memes, I was really excited to play with Memes because he was in the VL of the Legacy group, and I feel like I was just getting a relationship started with specifically him and Dylan that I could have seen go far. And I know with Peyton, I know Duke and Peyton played really closely together, and so Peyton was someone that I was really excited to work with in the game, but never really had the opportunity to. I don't really remember any other initial feelings. There were so many people that was so hard to keep track of everything as well.
Imagine being prod.
Oh, I can't.
So we'll move on to then the challenge. So we ended up in a creative challenge to make a promo. First of all, how did you feel about the rankings that we did? And how do you feel about the cast that you ended up on round one?
The rankings, that was literally impossible for me. I just kind of I did it the order that you had it, and I just went like 1, 2, 3, 4, and I just went through it that way because I don't know any of these people. So I had nothing to base off of. I know we were supposed to study Ascendance, but surprise, I did not do it. So the ranking to me meant nothing. And I'm sure, like, Duke getting first, I know that he was on prod for a lot of these seasons, and he was the first name listed, so that made sense to me. A lot of the names were earlier seasons, so I think it was just familiarity rather than like, this is who I want to work with, who I don't want to work with. I didn't read much into it. And then as far as the team that I was placed on, I really liked them. I quickly discovered that all of us were super busy, and we kept trying to make a plan and get on call and do this and that, and it just never went anywhere. So I think that we could have won that first challenge, but us getting 5th place was not a shock to me at all. So I was grateful at that point. At this point, maybe I would take that back. But at that point, I was grateful to have the large joint tribal because I thought it would have been madness if it was just the 5 of us voting.
So the joint tribal was a bit overwhelming. We said we were going to bring it this season, and we put you in, I believe, a 17-person vote. Mm-hmm. What was your strategy going into the vote, and what did you expect to happen when we got there?
Going into the vote, I wanted to just sit back. We got on a call with our Duke's troop, and we talked and said that we would stick together. I didn't think that we were going to stick together. I felt a little bit... I think that Curtis was sort of strong-arming the conversation and kind of steering it one way or the other during that conversation. And I could just get the sense that people weren't feeling it. And so I knew that, or I assumed that the 5 of us were not going to vote together going into that vote. And my thing was, I just wanted to sit back and kind of let the names fly out there. I know that Duke and I had a conversation about who it would sort of land on. And before we even get to that, Lana's name was out there before the challenge even started, and I had a really great conversation with Lana, and she was someone that I really thought we meshed well and we would work really well together. And I know that the season 6 thing was a topic of conversation, but I had started talking to Lana, really liked her. I knew Thulsi and I had a mutual friend, and we were on the same team, so I had formed a good relationship with her, and I was talking to Maddie a lot as well. So between those 3, I was thinking, I don't want anyone from season 6 to go. So when Lana's name was out there, I did my best to kind of talk to my people, or the people that I had been in conversations with, to just kind of nix that, to make sure that Lana wasn't going to get targeted at all, which is, again, funny in hindsight to see where my game goes 1 round later. But I nixed that one, and then Duke and I had a conversation about someone that we thought it could just sort of land on. I was also very drunk when this happened, so I only remember bits and parts of it. But I'm pretty sure that we kind of settled on Connor being a name that would be okay to get floated around. And we thought it would be smarter to have it come up last minute. By the time I got at work the next day, it was like Curtis and Connor's name are the 2 that are out there. And I was like, okay, well, that stinks because I don't want to go against the 5, but between Connor and Curtis, I kind of would rather Curtis go. I don't think that he wants me in long-term plans, because I had already assured him that I wasn't going to vote for him, and he kept giving me reasons why I shouldn't. And in my mind, I was thinking, that's just telling me you don't trust me, that I am doing this for you. And then I leaned more into the Connor thing because I, number one, did want to work with Connor, and it naturally was going to a vote toward Curtis. So I ended up voting for him for that reason as well, because the first vote I wanted to just kind of, I don't necessarily want to say that I wanted to play in the middle, but I hadn't established what direction I wanted to go. So being in the middle made the most sense at that point. I didn't want to stake my flag on one side of the game or the other when I wasn't really sure where the game was headed. And so I just wanted to vote a majority.
Okay, so then we move into new groups, and you got put
On vodka. I can't remember Jordan's team. So that one, that was frustrating. The teams in that portion I learned my lesson in season 5 that if you do the challenge and you do pretty well, you need to come in with a plan. And this isn't any of our first rodeo. None of us are Ascendance virgins here. You don't go into the round with a perfect score and then a 13-second tiebreaker. You don't go into it without some sort of plan. They kept saying that they didn't, and I know that the results did come out much sooner, so that is the only way that scenario is possibly true. But the way that the teams broke down, it made sense to me that Rosenberg would be going after a Kim or an Emily in that scenario. I know that Emily wants to take out Rosenberg. That's a discussion that we had prior to that round. And Maddie and we talked about ours because, we got second, and I had it all mapped out on how I wanted the teams to be just random, and kind of go from there. But with Rosenberg, I don't know, maybe he was targeting me just based on the knowledge that I have now after being voted off. But it seemed like season 6 and 5 at that point, season 6 and Jordan, I guess, were sort of working together and trying to get the votes to take out a season 1 person. That was the storyline that I was seeing happening. I don't know if that's actually true, because I feel like a lot of stuff was just, there were just rumors everywhere, and it was hard to follow along with so many people throwing their 2 cents, and lies could get thrown in wherever. So it was kind of hard to follow. I think that had it been 2 separate tribals, I think that I would have been fine on that team. I'm not really sure. But first of all, I was very frustrated when it became like only one team was winning, because if it had been 2, I would have been fine and I would have been in it for live night. But the whole Thulsi vote and that rumor getting spread that it was me who started it, I don't know why it was me. That, I guess Kim was the one that said it was me, and I think it was just because she was getting very paranoid because it was Mark's name out and she was apparently close to him. So I'm not sure why she threw my name out super immediately, and that's why I was super okay with voting for her and like leaning into that when Robbie came to me with that plan. And again, I was trying to protect Duke, because Duke was, I wouldn't necessarily say my number 1, but at that point he was one of the people that I was definitely never, ever, ever going to vote off. And I would have ended up voting for Thulsi, which I don't know who the 3 votes that voted for Kim were, myself and Duke and someone else, but had I just stuck with it, and it would have been a tie, and I'm not even sure if we would have went to rocks or not. Yeah, I feel like my answer is all over the place, but that's sort of how the round went. So it's hard for me to like put it all into a nice, concise, I don't know. I should have typed something up to read to you.
So I missed a little bit because I was out for a birthday, and it seemed like there were 2 solid names out there, and you were not one of them before I left. So how quickly did that change? And somebody said there was some drama in the main chat, but there were hundreds of messages when I got back, and I couldn't read them all. So can you summarize what drama went down and if you think that affected you?
So it certainly affected me, but it was not because of me. That I shouldn't have been affected by it, because it had nothing to do with me. But essentially, somebody told, so essentially from what I got from Emily, there was a season 1 chat or a couple people from season 1 with some other people, and they had decided that the vote was going to be Thulsi. This was, I guess, Thursday night. The vote was going to be Thulsi, and Emily told me that, but she told me I cannot tell anyone. And I was like, aye, Captain, I will not speak a word. And I did it. I didn't tell anyone that was the plan. As conversation started going on Friday, someone told Alex Viver that the plan was Thulsi. And so he put in the main chat that he loves being part of the blind side against Thulsi or something along those lines. And at that point in the day, Kim was really stressing me out because she was like, similar to what Curtis was doing with me. She asked me if I was on board to do it. And she wouldn't tell me a name. She just said, like, I heard you're in on the blind side. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm down, definitely down to do it. If the numbers are there, like, I'm in. And she kept kind of beating around the bush. And she kept saying, like, are you on board? Like, are you on board? And I was like, I already answered this. Like, please, like, calm down a little bit. Like, and so I think with that, I wasn't being super responsive to her in her chat because I was like, I can't just keep saying this over and over again. I'm getting frustrated. And so I didn't leave her on Reddit. I just didn't open the message like while I was doing some calls, like talking to some of like the middle people or who I thought were kind of back and forth between it being either, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was Mark and Thulsi. And then once Alex posted the Thulsi blind side, it automatically shifted to Duke. And that Mark, I hadn't had any conversations with. So I was okay with voting Mark. But the dilemma I had was I personally I felt better about voting Mark because I hadn't established a relationship, but the people that I wanted to work with in the game wanted to vote Thulsi. So that was like where my head was at with that. When it switched to Thulsi and Duke, I was like, well, I'm not voting Duke. And I really don't want to vote Thulsi, but I ultimately would have had this other plan not sprung up. Because whenever the Alex Viver message in the main chat was brought up, immediately Kim started, well, this is what I heard. I don't know if this is true or not. Kim started telling people that it was me who told Viver because she had heard from someone else, or she thought me and Viver had played a game together, which we hadn't. I didn't talk to Viver at all that day, so I'm not sure where that came from. Just, I don't know if someone told her that or if she just assumed and got the wrong information. But then it was me who came up with this big plan to blindside Thulsi. And then I went back to these people that were sort of in the middle, but I hadn't revealed to them that I had already known about the plan. I think that sort of caught up to me because essentially I was right in the middle of everything, but I hadn't decided where I wanted to go. And I think that in the moment, I thought that it was good that Viver put it in the main chat because then it was a discussion that I could have with a Maddie who I wanted to work with, and I was going to get on a call with Lana, so it was something that I could discuss. And these people that I wanted to work with, but in that vote were not on the same page as where I wanted to go, we could at least have the conversation kind of candidly. And then from there, the other thing, and I can't remember who it was, maybe Dylan posted something about blindsiding Duke. But then Robbie got on a call with me and was like, I don't want to vote for Duke or Thulsi. And he was like, I don't either. I kind of want to vote for Kim. She's the one that's like stirring stuff up. And I was like, she's spreading my name, so I would be completely down with that. And from there, Robbie went out to talk to his people. It was the season 6 people. It was Rocky, Devin. And then from there, no one was really talking to me, like from either side. So that's when I was like, okay, like something fishy is going on. And in hindsight, now that Alex has just joined the jury chat, that's kind of when it was shifting against me, which makes sense. Like, I'm usually pretty intuitive about these things, but I didn't think that they would flip it off of Duke. And some of the people that were voting for me, like a Rocky, like a Devin, and in that moment, the Maddie, Thulsi, Alana, I was essentially sticking my neck out to say, like, I'm willing to vote with you guys. I mean, if I was lying to them, it would have just been a tie anyway. So it's a risk that I would have taken because those are people that I would have, if I was Thulsi, I would have pushed the Kim vote because I had put myself out there to work with her. So it was something that I went forward with because it made logical sense to me to make that move if I were them. And So getting voted off was a little bit frustrating for the fact that I essentially was getting voted off for being honest with people and actually sticking my neck out for someone that immediately cut me. So yeah, all of that, it all happened. That was all within like probably like the last hour or so. It all happened very quickly. And again, I thought I was saving Duke. As far as the conversations that I had, Duke thought it would have been a tie. I didn't think that. I thought that it was pretty firmly at least 11 votes or I guess 9 votes. I don't even remember how many people are in the game. 9 votes were going to be against Duke. So it was a risk that I was willing to take to try to save my number one. Because I'm a loyal ass player.
Okay, and so I usually have some other questions, but since more people have came after you, I can't really ask, like, who do you think's coming next? Since a triple happened. But do you have any idea of who you thought might be in danger as you went out the door?
Well, it's so imperative, the tribal breakdown, so it's super hard to predict. I knew that Jack was going to be a target because he wasn't there. Or he wasn't going to be there, and he was super vocal about telling people that he wasn't going to be there. And when I saw the breakdown of the tribes, I thought that it might be Connor, because in a live, it's sometimes you just, I feel like in a live night, you either just all agree on someone whose name's already been out there, it's sort of an easy vote, or you go after a big target. So I really thought that joining me that night, after seeing the tribe breakdown, I really thought it was going to be Duke and Connor, which I would have been so disappointed if it was, because those are two people that I'm like invested still in the race. But it was almost Connor, and it was Michael Hearn, who I don't know at all. I barely had any conversations with him. And then Duke playing the legacy advantage saved him. So I think that was pretty cool to watch. I was really actually hoping it was going to be Fulsey, so I could be like, what were you doing? Why did you do that to me? So I was a little disappointed it was Jack, but I mean, it made sense. It was Peyton and Duke voting together, and everyone else, they had enough votes to split the votes. And I did assume when I saw the breakdowns that there was something going to happen, because Peyton kept not picking Duke. So I'm assuming that Peyton knew that he had that advantage and was like letting them, try to take out Duke. That was my prediction. But
so now that you do know the next few people, and I don't know if you saw that Alex came in as well tonight, and if you watched, that was due to an idol play as well. So we've had idol plays back-to-back rounds. Do you have any preferences on who you see coming through the door next? Is there anyone you hope doesn't make it far in the game?
Yeah, there are definitely people that just like all the people that voted for me, then I want it to be curtains. I want them, and that is a reference to us being all-stars and us being the understudy. I want like the curtain to fall on them and then get injured, because that's when the understudies come back in, and I'm like hanging on to hope that that's what's going to happen for me. But specifically, I mean, I definitely am not rooting for Robbie. I don't know the full conversation that happened, but based on what Viver was saying to me, I mean, Robbie's the one that initiated that plan and then took it and ran with it, and then like got me voted off. It's seemingly like, I don't know. And then Maddie apparently was pushing for my vote, and Jordan Rosenberg was pushing for my vote too. So I guess those three are probably the three that I'm rooting for the least. I didn't actually get a chance to talk to Lana one-on-one, and I think Fulsey is just kind of doing whatever she can to not get voted off. Her name was obviously the one out there, and she's the winner of the group. Well, I mean, Robbie is too, but she's been under some hot water, so I think that she's doing what she can to kind of survive to make it through. So I can't really hate on anyone. I mean, well, I'm sure we're gonna get to the Facebook post, but I'm rooting against those people. I'm actually really, really, truly rooting for Kim now. I think that if there is a twist where someone comes back in the game and it's me, then she's going to be the first person that I want to have a conversation with, because I think that she's someone that's really funny and that I could work with, maybe, even though she seems kind of paranoid. But I'm rooting for her. I'm obviously rooting for Duke and Emily, rooting for Connor, and that's the only people in the cast I can remember right now. Stephanie, I liked her, and Michael. No, not Michael. Benji. Rocky. That's maybe half the cast.
A different question, not who you like, but Who do you think's in a really good position in the game right now?
Ah. Who do I think is in a really good position in the game right now?
Yeah.
Um, it's hard to judge because there are still some sleepers that are really sitting back. And I feel like Rocky's probably in a pretty good position because he's been to all the votes, I believe. And he is playing in the middle very well. People can look to him to utilize a vote, and he has been able to do without like getting any light shown on him right now, I think. I mean, I left him out of my Facebook post because I didn't want any attention brought on him. So maybe Rocky. I feel like Jabbar is probably doing okay as well. Those two often would bring each other up, so I think that they're very much working together. So they are probably able to utilize the information from each other to kind of set themselves up really well. I think that Emily is going to be a silent assassin. I think that she's super quiet. She's not going to get too much attention on her, especially with Peyton and Duke being viewed as an obvious duo, and her sort of being like the third in that. So hopefully Emily, but I didn't necessarily. I wouldn't have been surprised to see Alex go home tonight, but not in the way that it went down. So I think being out of the game for it's 3 days at this point, I think that a lot has already happened. So I don't know. I have no idea what's going on.
Okay, and then we talked a little bit, and there's speculation on what I mean by you might have the opportunity to impact the game. If that's impacting the game negatively, who would you wish that upon?
I don't know. I think that it would really depend on, number one, when it's happening. It would depend on if the teams were already established, if I had someone that I needed to try to protect. It would just be super dependent on the situation. But I guess probably Robbie, Maddie, and Rosenberg, because those are seemingly the three that were the most to blame for my demise. And like, I don't want to be like vindictive, but I'm gonna be vindictive if I had the opportunity to like throw some bad juju at someone. Was I supposed to just throw it at anyone? Like I would have to throw it at the people that I think that got me out, you know.
So, on the other hand, if you can impact the game in a positive light, who would you try to assist in the game?
Duke and Emily, for sure. I think that if it's known that I'm impacting the game in a positive light or giving someone something that's some sort of power, I think that I naturally would have to give it to Duke because that's what people would expect me to. And I think it would be bad for people to expect me to give something to someone that I want to see do well and them not actually get anything from it, because I think it would just set them up for failure. So I think that if it's a public thing, then I would probably give it to Duke. But if it's something a little bit more sneaky that I would be like handing a power to someone, then maybe Emily. Probably Emily.
Okay, and I think that's all the major questions I had. So, any other final thoughts that you didn't get to share?
Well, I thought you would have a question about my Facebook post.
Oh, I forgot about it. Although it did cause a tizzy, and that's as much as I can tell you. But it was definitely red. So yeah,
It's what I wanted.
it's thoughts.
First of all, I I I wouldn't say bitter is the right word, but I did want to, cause a fuss. I remember when Josh did it to me, and I went crazy behind the scenes. But I think that just the manner that I went out this time, essentially, I went out for sticking my neck out for a friend. And so I think I came into the game, I should have been more cutthroat if I wanted to go farther. But I for sure wanted it to be known where the votes went, because I had told Emily and I had told Duke. So giving them that information, but then specifically calling out all the people that I know had a hand in, I guess, tricking me. I don't even know if it was, I really don't know what happened, but the people that had a hand in me deciding that I would switch my vote, because had again, I don't know who the third person was, but had we not, it would have been a tie. 8 Scott, 8 Dulcie. So we might have gone to rocks. I don't know. So ultimately, I know that it was my fault in a sense that I switched my vote, but it was because I was sticking my neck out for these people. And so I wanted it to be known, these are the people that did me dirty for, in my mind, no reason. So I wanted to make sure that I called them out. I wanted to ensure that those three are definitely working together. Maddie told me he does not want to play a middle game. And in the tribal council tonight, it kind of seems like he's like, I'm just kind of going round by round, but he would not budge. And I think based on what Viber told me, he didn't want me to be sitting in the middle of the game. So I wanted to be known that those three are definitely working together. Season 6 is certainly a thing, whether they want to say it or not, or at least it was at that point. I don't know if it is now that seemingly Maddie and Alex went after each other, or what have you. But I wanted to make sure that that was established. Devin was the one that got on call with me and then never got back to me. He was supposed to be like someone that was a ride or die, but I had heard that he had been having the same conversations with everyone. So I wanted to make sure that I threw some spotlight onto him. He's not going to just sneak through telling everyone the same thing. I thought I was special. Then with Jordan, I just feel like Jordan's always doing too much. So I know that he said something at Tribal Council and I was like laughing about that. I don't even remember who I said. Oh, Robbie, same reasons. And I left Rocky out because I am rooting for Rocky. But all of that was to really spotlight those people. And then hopefully some of the people that I definitely was working with would be able to sink beneath the surface a little bit more. Specifically Duke, he's in the focal point and I wanted, like I said, he was like my number one. So I wanted to make sure that I could do, if I could do anything to help him, I could. Same with Emily. She's someone that's going to fly under the radar to get far. So just to kind of set that up and let these people know that they did me dirty and I wanted it to be known.
So what do you, if any, as a player, stop you putting other people's posts? Like when Josh did that in season 5.
Can you say that again?
I was saying when, for example, when Josh did the similar thing in season 5, how much stock did you put in what he was saying and did it impact your game back then?
Oh, essentially I was the reason that Josh went home. It wasn't my intention, but that's certainly what happened. And so he had nothing to lose in posting that. I remember asking Brecken, and I was like, can we please delete that? Like, and you're like, no, you're allowed to do it. And I was like, cool. So it definitely set my game a little bit more in motion just because I didn't want people to think that about me. And there were still people in the game that I had barely talked to. And their new perspective of me is just that Scott will backstab you in a heartbeat. And while that might be true in other scenarios, like that's how I've played games in the past. And it's not obviously not how I played this one, but perception is reality. And if people don't know me, then why they have no reason not to believe that. And so in a cast this large, to really look at someone's post that just got voted off, I wanted to sound really bitter, but if you like know me, you can like read it and know that it's like funny, I thought anyway. And I was really laughing about Jordan because I feel like Jordan doesn't know me that well. We played a whole season together, but he was like, Scott was he took it very personally. I was like, no, it was supposed to be like funny. We were all supposed to laugh at it. But I mean,
I laughed at it.
Oh, same. I actually typed it the night before and I was just like waiting. That's why I was like, when is the post going to go up? It was like typed up on a Word document. I was just ready to post it. But I think that people, whether they say they are going to take stock in it or not, it's going to be something in the back of their mind. It's like, what is it, Russell Hands? It's a little Russell seed and it's just going to grow and fester and it's going to cause some havoc. And that's what I wanted. I didn't have a huge impact on the season yet, because obviously there's going to be a buyback twist and I'm going to win endurance competition and get back in the game. And then I'll create some real havoc. But I wanted to make sure I left some sort of mark.
So if your prediction comes true, do you think anything that you wrote or said will bite you in the butt?
Probably. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Because, I mean, honestly, nothing that I said wasn't a lie. So, except I was like very sarcastic tone, but everything that I put there is the truth. Like, so you can't get mad at someone for telling the truth. And if someone comes after me because of it, I'll just tell everyone else that I was being honest. And then I can tell them the facts. And then they'll believe me, and then I'll be safe. And then they'll get voted off.
Okay, and then I will say again, is there anything we didn't touch on that you would like to summarize or final thoughts?
I don't think so. I'm very embarrassed about getting 23rd place, and I don't regret playing, but I am sad about the outcome at this point. Again, because like I'm gonna slay it when I get back in. This is me manifesting that. But I'm excited to keep watching, and as long as I do have people that I'm rooting for in the race, then I'll still be an active member of the understudies.
Okay, let me stop recording.